Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Blue Maximo and I'm here checking out Has Been Heroes. You might be wondering why the hell am I checking this one out so late? Well, EB Games Australia said back to me when they first delivered my Switch, hey, we didn't get it to you on time, we'll send you a free copy of this when it comes out. And they sent me a copy of it about a week after it came out in Europe, which is 2 weeks after it came out in the US. So I'm really behind on this one, but I don't have a video set to go up on the day you'll be seeing this. So I might as well do it while I can, and, you know, I have a good reason to. Not much to see in the options menu. It's all pretty self-explanatory. Although, notably, you can enable the subtitles, but the only subtitles you really need are for the narrator. Everyone else speaks in, like, this sort of, what's the word? They speak in, like, a Banjo-Kazooie style mumbling and sound effects sort of thing. It's a little odd, but we'll be able to hear that shortly. You can come to your unlock screen, which has your stats. As you can see, I've played for 2 hours and I've played 14 games. Games don't last very long in this game, I'll tell you that much. You can also see all the things that you've unlocked, for this is a roguelike, and you start out with the same small group of heroes that are bunches of shit, and you have to go through and get as many different kinds of spells as you possibly can, special items, and all of that. Try and beat as many enemies as you can, and notably there aren't that many enemies actually unlocked right now. You have to get to the end of every region as fast as humanly possible with all the stuff you can get to beat all the bosses, and it's a roguelike. It makes sense. So let's just go hop into it, because you want me to be perfectly honest, I think this game is a bloody chore, but we'll get into why shortly. So it'll pick our area for us at first. It puts that tutorial up every single time, which is a little strange, but well, I'll live with it just a little bit. So you start out on this grid that you can see in the bottom right. You have some limited resources, which are candles, which will let you backtrack, and if you run out of candles and backtrack, you die. So it is entirely possible to screw yourself into an area that you can't exactly return from. It makes no bloody sense as well as a concept, by the way, because it doesn't make any sense. Like, why does it suddenly get dark if you go back along the same way? As a way to prevent backtracking, it's actually really frustrating, and I don't like it one bit. I reckon that you should be forced to do things like combat, because combat should be what you have to do in a game like this in order to actually, like, give you the limitations. Like, you need to be worried that you're going to die, not worried that you don't have enough bloody candles. But nevertheless, the combat is the majority of this game's gameplay, obviously, and the way the combat in this game works is very simple. You have heroes on one of 3 lanes, and you use these heroes to go out and do attacks. Every enemy that you fight has its own stamina bar, and if you manage to drain that stamina bar exactly, you will stun them, and getting in a hit will do a little bit of extra damage, and it'll take away one of their stamina, which means they'll be easier to drain of their stamina, and you will be able to go and just take them out relatively easily, because if they don't have any stamina, they're wide open for attacks from basically anybody. When you first start the game, this makes perfect sense. It works perfectly fine for the most part. But then you just keep playing the game and it turns out that it's actually a really dull system. Like, I don't know why it's so dull, but it just is. Because the way it works is that you just have to do this over and over again. Like, there's no variety in the combat, unlike a roguelite like Binding of Isaac, for example. You're just doing the same thing over and over again, which really isn't helped out much by the fact that you're stuck with the same 3 heroes for at least the first 2 hours. I've been playing for 2 hours, I haven't seen a single new hero, despite the fact that you can get at least 30 of them. I don't know why they're so resistant to giving you new heroes right off the bat, but it really works to the game's disadvantage, because you're stuck with the same 3 heroes, and they're all the same efficiency, which is, except for that warrior up the top lane there right now, pretty crap. And there are a few other annoying things about this system as well, like there's the lane switching. The lane switching is a bit of a pain, because you can only swap lanes when you've done an attack, which doesn't really make much sense to me. I mean, they justify it as the lane being clear for someone else to move, but then the other guy can move just fine as well, which is even more frustrating, because You can just move them at any time, and the game's controls are a bit of a pain in the ass, and they take a really long time to get your head around. And even then, it doesn't do particularly great at just having the controls be usable. So now, for example, I can actually demonstrate here. So you have to press the button you want to swap the lane out for, then you have to swap the button the person you want to swap in. But you can't do this freely. You have to do the shuffle. Like, so for example, if I wanted to get... So if say the free lane... Say the free lane was up the top, I'd have to swap these two around, then I'd have to swap them around like that in order to get into the top lane. And it's really frustrating because this whole system could be done better just with the analog stick, but they have to use the analog stick to give you access to the spell things, so it's still frustrating. Fully recharges all melee cooldowns of your group and all of your spell cooldowns by 5 seconds. That's actually pretty useful. I don't want to have to go into another battle, but I'll go do it anyway to see what's at that little point there, although knowing my luck, it'll probably be nothing. Also kind of annoying is the fact that you can't choose what happens with your formation until you're already in the battle. So if you wanted to start out like going up against a, well, not so much going up against it, but having a specific setup of your people, nope, you have to fill around with it when you're in the battle. And that's just that's a tiny thing, but it's still really damn annoying. So it just gets really frustrating, especially early on, because the way it works is that since you have more enemies to unlock and it's a roguelite or roguelike or whatever the hell you want to bloody call them, since it's one of those style of games, your party combinations get reset at the beginning of every run, which is perfectly fine. The problem is that the two heroes, except for the warrior up in the top lane right at this moment, they're all so weak that they die in one hit anyway. So you end up with a party that's really weak. I don't know how I managed to do that. How did I... That's weird. The controls in this game are weird. I thought I said... It's hard to get used to them. It really is. Like... Oh, man. Like I said, you couldn't swap characters around without having to do the bloody shuffle. Well, it turns out you can. It's just really difficult. Did I just buff an enemy? Why would I do that? That's so dumb. Why are you able to buff your enemies? That makes no sense. So as I was saying, your guys are all really weak, and except for the warrior, they die in one hit. So you have to deal with that pretty much the entire time you're playing the game. Which is one of the most frustrating things imaginable. Okay, no, hang on. I need to get you out of that slot. Now I need to put you in that slot there. This could have been done so much easier. This could have been done so much easier if they had just decided to let me control this in a little bit of a more realistic way. So you end up just replaying the game over and over and over again, hoping that you'll eventually get something half decent that you can work with. And that's pretty much the only way you can beat the bosses in this game, because you just need to have the good luck to find what it is you're looking for in order to actually survive, which is the most frustrating part. Is the most frustrating part just because it's entirely random. So you do have a sort of way to progress, which is if you... Of course I didn't get it. I never get these. If you get a certain amount of kills, they will... at the end of the game, they'll be turned into item unlocks. But the item unlocks are just for things you can find in the world, which makes them even more frustrating. Because it means you don't unlock anything along the lines of heroes or something like that persistently. You have to... It's just items. Or I don't know if you can actually unlock the... I don't know if you can actually unlock heroes through the whole endgame system. But if you can, I don't bloody well know about it. And having to actually, like, grind away at the game over and over again is one of the more frustrating things about it. Just because you have to fight all of these similar enemies over and over again. You have to fight one of two bosses, one of which is pretty much undefeatable with your basic party, which is the worst goddamn thing. But whatever. You have to fight one or two bosses. You have to fight... Well, you have to fight similar skeleton enemies. Not the same skeleton enemies, but very similar skeleton enemies. Just over and over again in order to stand a chance. And as you can see, I just got one shot because I was waiting for my goddamn attack to recharge. So, now I have to go back to the menu and come back and try again. Probably didn't even unlock anything this time. I was somehow at 100 out of 100 there, and I still didn't get the unlock from it. I'm not entirely sure what that was about. And I still didn't get any unlocks. I'm supposed to get unlocks from that. Where were they? At least I was supposed to get unlocks. What the hell happened there? I might have managed to bug out the game, guys. We'll give it one more shot. But I just find the game to be more frustrating than fun. It's funny how I find a game like this more frustrating than a game like Darkest Dungeon, which this game is, I would say, somewhat clearly taken a few hints from. I mean, I might as well take the spell while I'm here. I mean, the game, when I first saw it in a trailer, looked like a massive Darkest Dungeon clone. It was really weird. Just how much it's looked like a Darkest Dungeon game, but it's not. It's not even close. The annoying controls, the pointless combat, and it really is pointless because it doesn't really give you much except the ability to backtrack. And even then, it's a bit random as to whether or not it'll backtrack for you. The tedium of having to replay everything over and over again in order to actually get anything done. And I wouldn't say below average, but I would say completely unremarkable art and sound. Just make this a chore. Not to mention the extremely high difficulty. Go there, attack that. Now we don't cast a spell because we don't want to cast that. We want to cast that, then immediately attack. Then get back up. Get the attacks in. Now I have to wait for him to become bloody visible. I pause the game, fire off the fireball. This game's actually more annoying than it looks, just because, due to the way the controls work, every single time you do something, the game decides to pause. Like, almost every single time. Just because the way the controls work is so, being polite, unconventional. Because the controls are so unconventional, it means the game has to pause to give you a break so that you don't end up doing the wrong thing. when the whole game could have been done way easier just by virtue of actually having a system that made some sort of sense. I find it surprisingly frustrating. And that's the entirety of the truth. Might be better later on. I will not deny that it might be better later on, but just the sheer repetitiveness. Not even the other things like the controls being a pain in the ass or the difficulty being really high. That's the main thing that kills it for me. The game just being so unbelievably repetitive that I can't stand playing it for more than a few minutes at a time, which is really annoying considering I played it for like an hour and a half before I decided to do a video, and my first take was horrible, so I came back and I tried again. I mean, I know I'm not the best video maker, but I do have standards. I'm just trying to do as much damage as I possibly can here. The annoying thing is going to be that it's not going to be in the right spot. And because of how random it is that it decides to jump lanes, I don't know if it's going to be in the right place for me to actually get the attacks in. So I don't know who to cast my spells on until the very last second. And even then, well, I'm stuck with having to give it to this guy again because Really? You're not able to attack him while he's invisible, so as soon as he came out of his invincibility, he got to do the attack. That was dumb. That was really dumb. Yeah, Has-Been Heroes is a bit shit. I would not recommend this on any platform, let alone the Switch. The Switch version does work fine. I haven't noticed any real issues with it. You can use the touchscreen here and there, but not all the time, and just no. I wouldn't recommend it on this. I wouldn't recommend it on anything else, really. Much better take this time. Don't sound like as much of a whiny bitch, but well, we'll live with it. This has been Blue Maxima, and I'll see you all next time.